I'll let you introduce yourself and do your thing. Okay, come on up.
What's going on, guys? So, my full name is actually Dan Taxation and Stuff Behrman, if you don't already know that.
Otherwise known as Smart Motherfucker.
Otherwise known as Smart Motherfucker. That's the nickname I got this weekend. So some people ask me if I have legally changed my middle name to Taxation and Theft, and the answer is I've not legally changed it, I have lawfully changed it, which means I don't ask government for permission to change it because free people don't ask government for permission. And that brings me actually to a point that I wanted to make about the cannabis reform and what everybody's trying to do here. So a lot of people think we are asking government for permission to have marijuana or cannabis or ganja or weed or whatever you want to call it. The reality is we're not asking for permission. We're revoking their permission to punish people who are in possession of these things that some people before us gave permission to some other people to give permission to some other people to say that you can throw people in cages for this plant. If you ask the sheriff, what gives the sheriff the authority? Who gave them permission to arrest somebody for permission? They'll say, it's the law, I'm just following orders. The law says I have to do this. Who wrote those laws? People who were given permission to write those laws. And what about those laws? Who gave them permission on what kinds of laws they could write? You look at the Constitution. How many people have read the Texas State Constitution? Anybody? We're usually forced to read the United States Constitution in school, and they kind of usually, wherever you are, I grew up in California, I didn't even know there was a California Constitution until I got out of high school, because they don't teach that. They want you to know about the US Constitution, and that's pretty much it. Now I'll give you this. The state constitutions are usually a lot longer, and they usually take away a lot more rights. But it all comes from permission. There's, if you look back at some of the early writings that started this country, it was said that the right to govern derives from the consent of the governed, which means if we don't give them our consent to govern us, they do not have the authority to govern us. They have to have our consent. And that was the idea of the Constitution, and having representatives go and write these laws and form this Constitution that was supposed to restrict and only give very limited permission. But I want you to do this. The next time you look at a law, the law is not telling you or me or anyone here what we can or cannot do. Those laws are there to give permission to state actors on what they can and cannot do. The laws do not say you cannot smoke cannabis. The laws say if you see someone in possession of cannabis, somebody working for the state can arrest them and can charge them and put them through the due process system and ultimately put them behind bars for however many years. It doesn't say what we can and can't do. So there's something else interesting that I'm not texting anyone right here. I'm looking up a note because I want to make sure I read this verbatim. Everybody knows the First Amendment pretty well. It protects freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Nobody knows the third, but I'll skip that for now. The fourth and fifth, everyone knows pretty well. But how many people know the ninth? Anybody? Everybody? It's quiet. Okay. The ninth, I'm going to read it right now. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. What that means is basically, okay, we have this Bill of Rights, and we're told these are all our rights. These are rights that government gave us, which is totally not true at all. These are rights that the people who created the government said, those are rights that you do not ever, ever, ever touch. And then they wrote the Ninth Amendment, and they said, just because we didn't list a right in this Bill of Rights does not mean you can trample those rights. And if you look at the document written just a couple of years before that, the one where a few Americans violently overthrew the government that was ruling them at the time, it says, we find it to be self-evident that we are endowed by our creators certain unalienable rights, and that among those rights are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if that doesn't mean you can smoke weed and get high because you feel like it, I don't know what it means. So really, I hear some people saying the First Amendment should protect the right to smoke weed because what if it's a cannabis religion? Well, I say we shouldn't even have to say that. We should say this is a different right that the Ninth Amendment should protect. And we should be able to say that. So, I just want everybody to realize that there's a different perspective on how we need to look at these things, because the reality is, if we have the right perspective looking at this, it's a lot easier for us to tell other people to join us in actually making these changes. The other thing I want to point out is, everybody here, this is something that I know a lot of people face challenges with. We feel small, we feel like we're fighting these big things that they're too big for us to accomplish, whether it's changing laws or even as much as getting a promotion. Everybody here needs to realize that we are all amazing people and we're capable of very amazing things. And as much as government tries to put us down by saying we're criminals, we're stoners, we're pot smokers, we're whatever they want to call us, they've got all kinds of funny words for it. Whatever they try to tell us, that's just trying to hold us down and put a mental block around our brain. But the reality is, we're no inferior to any of these people who are creating these laws. The only thing is that they have no morals and they're willing to arrest people and throw people in cages for no good reason. So we're actually better than them. So I want everybody to know that you are here, you are strong, you are powerful, you are smart, you are capable of completely amazing things, and don't let anybody ever tell you anything otherwise. That's all I got. Taxation stuff.